when you create a culture and you surround everyone and everything with that right mindset and the right values and the right behaviors, and it's over and over and over again. And I could, so it was modeled. And so when I just look at that trickle down effect, right? We talk about it's not what you say, it's what you do. And whether you're a parent or
what you're doing is so loud, I can't hear what you're saying.
That's exactly right. And we never had to say that to the players, but the players felt that. The players could feel that whether you agreed with decisions or not, there was so much respect and value into how everything that was done that it just kind of permeated the entire environment.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
Welcome back to the Limitless Minds Podcast. This is a special summer series is all about sports.
Yeah.
And right now we have Travis and I and Harry. It's funny because it's more like Harry and I are welcoming Travis today to the podcast because Travis has been to a World Cup. We have a World Cup coming up here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. World Cup is going to start. Travis has actually been on staff for the United States of America when we played the last World Cup, which we made it to the round of 16. A nice accomplishment for us. And so Harry and I were like, we got to forget. Travis is not the host today. Travis is the guest because we got to pick his brain about the World Cup.
Wow.
Yeah, we're doing some brain picking.
Little nitpicking
and brain picking. So, we're going to forego the Nooch Nuggets because I'm sure some will come out actually during this talk.
We've got some World Cup Nooch Nuggets from 22.
World Cup Nooch Nuggets, which is awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about Team USA, some leadership stuff. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit about like youth sports and what you can encourage your kids who are athletes. It doesn't matter what sport they're in, but we're talking about, this is the World Cup, ladies and gentlemen. This is the biggest sporting event in the world. There's nothing bigger than the World Cup. So, what can we look for? What types of things can different athletes pick up for? Harry, your daughter is a phenomenal field hockey player. My son's a basketball player. Travis, obviously, your family is into soccer, but is also into running and things of that nature. So we're going to talk about that as well. Does that sound like a good podcast to you, Harry?
Sounds like
fun?
It sounds limitless.
Sounds like a really good episode. What I will say is, if you're listening to Josh's wonderful intro and you're like, sports again? Or if you're like, sports, I don't know anything about sports. Stay tuned, because this isn't just about sports, right? There are applicable tools, tips, tricks, interesting nuggets of the Nooch variety, for example, the neutral variety, whatever it might be that might apply to your everyday if sports aren't number one on your list, if you will, right? So I want to make sure that, to in fact turn the volume up a little bit, even if it's not, if sports isn't your foray, you know what I mean? So I want to challenge you on that, listeners, for those that are. And then also, I want to make a quick, especially at the beginning when people are still tuned in. I got something in the mail just a couple of days ago.
Oh,
look at this. For those that can't see, these are on audio. For those that are on audio, this is the book written by Josh Lifrak, and he is our obviously wonderful co-host here. But it's called Win Today: 6 Steps to Mental Resilience, Peak Performance, and a Thriving Life. So I just want to shout out Josh. Congrats on getting this done.
Congratulations.
I haven't got a chance to get into it yet, but I have plenty of travel and different things going on this summer, here in June. So I will be reading this from head to toe.
Both of your names might appear in it. Just a heads up.
That's really why I wanted to read it.
I
want to see what
Harry, I can even tell you what chapter to go to, Harry, and you can just read about yourself. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
Harry just goes to ChatGPT, says, "Chat, does my name appear at all in Win Today?"
What page?
You know who else won the day recently and is winning today over and over again? Arsenal. Travis and I have talked multiple times about Arsenal. We are the EPL champions.
Josh,
we talked about their responses to failure and how they got neutral. But heck yeah.
If you listen, if you listen to multiple podcasts from the Success Leaves Clues,
London,
you hear Josh just documenting their path over the last 2 months. And so, Josh, I think you should be getting a slice of that title as well.
I want to talk to Mikel Arteta. It's really actually, you know what's crazy is as I watch this, how much it actually mirrors the energy and the vibe around what we had in Chicago when we won in 2016.
Yeah.
It's really, 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 really interesting. I won't go into that in this podcast. Maybe we can do it in a different podcast, but it's kind of interesting. It's, you know, there's this great Albert Einstein quote. I've mentioned it before. There are things that count that cannot be counted. And Mikel Arteta and the entire Arsenal Football Club nailed the things you can't count. The vibe, the energy, the leadership, the camaraderie, the love. Better people make better players. They did that. Better people make better Gooners. And so just hats off. I know Mikel's probably not listening to this as he's getting ready to win the Champions League final on Saturday. But, you know, I just throw that out there.
Yeah, and Josh, I think there's a ton of relevance in that idea about, you know, there are things that count that you cannot count. And I know as we get more into this episode and we talk about, you know, culture around World Cup teams, we think about the environment that these teams are living in for a month or so, and the intangibles of what does it take to create that space, that environment, and have the right people that help teams and organizations, you know, succeed. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of relevance in that for our discussion as well.
And I guess that's a great place to start, Harry. I mean, and you can chime in too throughout, but the first thing that jumps out at me is you just mentioned it, like they're together for a month, and like, what is it? What is the day to day? You, again, just for everybody to get some understanding, Travis was on the staff of the team that went to the World Cup in Qatar, right? So you were with them from the plane ride over, you know, you were with them in qualifying, obviously too, but the plane ride into Qatar. And so can you just kind of take us, like, what is that like? What is that going to a different country, living there for a month or a month and a half sometimes? And just kind of, can you break down some of the things that people might not understand about the stresses and challenges of going in and being a participant in a tournament like this?
Yeah, so I'll talk about 22 and then talk about for everyone who's following the new World Cup and how that's going to differ for teams in kind of a positive and negative way. But so like Josh said, I was with the team from 2020 through the World Cup in 2022. So I got to spend 3 years, you know, kind of fully embedded, you know, on the staff and with the team. My title was leadership and team dynamics coach. But to answer your question, and so the interesting thing about the Qatar World Cup in 2022 was that for Americans, I like to say, imagine if the entire World Cup took place in the Dallas metro area, where you've got Dallas, which is a thriving metropolitan city, but then there's lots of suburbs and area. It's Texas, right? There's lots of space. There's lots of area around Texas, and they decided to just put the rest of the World Cup stadiums around Dallas. And so from one stadium to the furthest stadium away for the entire World Cup was an hour. And so that everything was condensed into, so every country was in one spot for the entire World Cup. And so for us, and like all the other countries, we took over. I mean, we didn't take over the entire hotel, but our team, our delegation, we were in one hotel. We had our own space in the hotel for an entire month. And so what we were able to do ahead of time is we wanted to make it feel like home. We wanted to make it feel American. We wanted the guys, as they settled into this place for a month, in the Middle East in November, we wanted them to feel like an American Thanksgiving. We wanted them to feel that they were home, so they could relax and just focus on obviously playing and creating, to your point, Josh, having a routine that was familiar and that was no different than what they had been doing up until that point. And then if you flip that to the current World Cup that's happening now here in a week or so, it's 3 different countries here in North America, US, Canada, and Mexico, sharing that. And every country, every team is going to have a home base somewhere in North America. But then obviously they will leave that. They will fly to the city that they're playing in, play their game for a couple of days, fly back to their home base. So they're going to try to recreate that. But it's going to be a little bit different. The travel component adds more to it. But I also say these are professional soccer players where they're sort of used to this hotel living, hotel hopping. And so I don't think it'll have a huge impact on them mentally. But for us in 22, it was about we wanted the players to feel as comfortable and familiar as possible.
Yeah, I love that, man. And it is interesting to kind of to kind of get a look into the difference between the last World Cup and this one relative to location and space and some of the for those gentlemen who played in the 2022 World Cup, and then this one it will be different for them, even though they're experienced in travel. It will be a different experience, maybe a different emotional experience being in the States. I think where's their home base?
Irvine
this year. Do you know Irvine?
Yeah, Irvine, California.
U.S. because they play the first game in L.A., second game in Seattle, third game in L.A., and so they're Irvine because
they'll be on the West Coast. They'll be on the West Coast, so they'll be kind of just at least West Coast flying or whatever it might be. But what I'm curious. I've been lucky enough to observe like really big games, really big sports experiences, Super Bowls, national championships in LA.
I mean, you got to go to Dos a Zero in.
I did get to go to Dos a Zero in Cincinnati.
During World Cup qualifying. Yes,
I did, and I think I got COVID while I was there. It was crazy.
Well,
but
I was in the hotel with COVID. Yes, that's why I wasn't.
I think the Mexican team got COVID that night too.
A super spreader event. But what is the in these big games? In this case, a series of games, and really the world's biggest stage of sport globally. What does the emotional energy feel like inside this team environment, whether it be, pre-game, post-game, certainly during a game? Like once the World Cup begins and now there's matches being played, the pitch is filled with some of the best players in the world. What is that emotional energy like? Not only for the players from your perspective, but also as somebody on the staff that isn't putting their foot on the ball. Right. Tell us about that.
Can I add something to that, Harry, too? I think one of the other things for our listeners to recognize too, they get to play this tournament once every 4 years, and they have 3 games guaranteed. And if they stink in those 3 games, the 4 years is over quickly. So that's 90, 90, 90, right? It's like, it's just boom, boom, boom. See ya. Yeah. So, I'm kind of curious about that too. Like that understanding of like, this is really, really, really fickle. If you mess up, I remember in 98, we lost 3-0 first game. We were done. See ya. It's the end of the tournament. First game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, to that point, I think the nice thing, what the 2022 team had, which this team doesn't have, but it's okay because half the roster was the 2022 roster, is that what World Cup qualifying is such a difficult process. What that I think mentally prepares you for is every game has such high stakes attached to it, and you're going into really hostile environments. For the CONCACAF road games really helps prepare the players for going into a World Cup environment where the environment isn't as intimidating as the stakes of the game. Right. So the stadiums in Qatar were beautiful. A lot of them were brand new. So there's an energy in the stadium. There's not, but it's a pretty, impartial energy in the stadium. You got both fan bases, but the idea that these guys are going out there and they know that they're playing the biggest game in their life, right? Each next game is the biggest game in their life. And so how they manage that, and obviously this is the work that the three of us do. How they manage that is how we manage it as a staff, which is helping the players create an environment, a routine, and a system where what we focus on is our behaviors and our actions as far as what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And so, yes, everyone understands that this is, you're playing in the biggest game of your life. But what you end up focusing on is the same habits and routines that you've done, leading up to that point. You're focused on, tactics. You're focused on, the right behaviors, and then it's just everyone. I think what Greg was really great with the national team during that time was making sure that every staff member was on the same page about why we were there, and our job was to be there to support the players and to help put them in the best possible position to succeed. So as a staff member, the pressure we felt was, I don't want to screw up in a way that lets the team down. I don't want to do something stupid that lets the team down. I don't want to become a distraction that lets the team down, which is, for those of you who remember, going into our last group game, group game number 3 against Iran, we had to win. Iran could tie in advance. We had to beat them. And then, someone in the U.S. delegation kind of, made a social media post without the team knowing that ended up now becoming this huge external distraction that we had to deal with, like a monster distraction that really could have negatively impacted. I mean, it did negatively impact us, but had we tied or lost that game, this person, I'm really grateful that it probably would have even brought more attention on them. And so you just don't want to be the reason that you disrupt and take away from the player's experience. And so you're just there. It's like the elephant in the room. Everyone knows that this is a huge game. So what can we do to help keep bringing? It's like you're just kind of mentally wrapping your arms around everyone and saying, hey, yeah, we know this is big. Come back to what we know we need to focus on, control what we can control. And let's just be really clear on that. Let's use the pressures of privilege. Let's use this opportunity as motivation. And let's focus on what we know that we need to focus on, which is us, and just go out there and let the outcomes take care of themselves.
Yeah. That's awesome. What was so again, that's great. Let's go back in history. We won that game 1-0, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To against Iran. And then we that allowed us to advance to go play Holland, I believe, in the next round.
Yes.
But here's the thing. What was the energy like from the players? Because again, this is, we're playing Iran, who literally chants death to America, right? Mm-hmm. They actually literally chant that in the streets. They want to kill us, like literally kill us. Not the players probably, but that's a thing in their country. So how did they deal with that, and how did they manage that? Did they even think about that, or was it just, hey, it's just another game, let's go?
No, I would say we all felt it from the standpoint after the social media post became a big story. Iran, the delegation was trying to get us kicked out of the World Cup because that we had there's something in there. It was like a bylaw or a rule that we had violated as a result. It just kind of created more of a national. There's already bad blood between the two countries, so it stoked that fire really kind of to the highest. And I remember, driving to training one day, and in my bus we had, one of I think 3 Secret Service or CIA agents that were there for extra security. And I remember kind of talking to him when things were kind of stoked, and I was like, how are you feeling about all of this? And he kind of looked at me without wanting to give too much away. He's like, well, we weren't really prepared for this escalation. And I remember sitting there going, we were in Qatar, who is one of Iran's, best allies. And here we are, kind of poking the bear. And all of a sudden, so I remember, having to get neutral at that point, because I'm like, oh, I'm noticing Travis is afraid right now, mm-hmm. and so then there's just this energy around the team. And then I think when Greg and Tyler Adams went to the press conference the day before, 2 days out, and it was the majority of the media was the Iranian national media, and they just got, if you go back and watch that press conference, it's really interesting, but they just got attacked by the Iranian media, and it was super aggressive, super disrespectful. Both players handled it. I mean, Greg and Tyler handled it beautifully.
Yeah, I remember being really proud of Tyler Adams, Mid-Hudson Valley native. So he's from the 914.
Yeah, I encourage everyone, go back and watch that press conference. But Greg came back, and you could see that, it's on, right? It's on. And so I think there was a temptation. We ended up having a big conversation as a staff. There was this big temptation to feel like we needed to make sure the players understood that the intensity had been ratcheted up, and we need to maybe approach things differently. But I think after we talked about it as a staff, it was almost like collectively we got neutral, which was, hey, there's so much extra emotion built up around this game that's not about the game.
Yeah.
And so as a staff, we kind of went back to, hey, who are we, right? What have our values been, and how have we been preparing these guys for 3 or 4 years to focus and prepare for a game? And so we went back to that, and we talked about, making the main thing, right? What's the goal? The goal is to go out there, play the best game we can, win in advance, right? It's not about Iran. It's not about our countries and the bad blood. It's not about the social media post. And so I think that was the moment where we could have really spiraled and made it a distraction, and we got neutral and used it as a way to like regulate ourselves, refocus, and put the players in the best possible position to succeed. And guys, I don't know if you remember this. This is the most proud I was of being a part of that team, because we didn't talk about it. But when you talk about the power of culture and creating an environment that really kind of seeps into how we do anything is how we do everything. We end up beating Iran in a very emotional game, 1-0. The Iranian players who were under such pressure to advance, and a few players had made kind of gestures of protest against their government in an early game, and actually had family members killed as a result of that, right? So they had their own level of pressure, right, that they were dealing with. And so we win the game, and you've got Iranian players on the field collapsed in tears. Not just like, oh, we lost the national championship. Like, this is kind of life crushing, knowing the situation that they're going back into. And so many of the U.S. players, not only were they walking around just saying, hey, good game, they were embracing the players, like for minutes, like embracing and being with them and consoling them. And there was no American, stick our chest out and rub it in their faces and we're the greatest country in the world. There was none of that. It was compassion. Like, we went out and competed at the highest level. And then after the game, we loved you like humans. And I just remember going, this is who we are at our best. And I was so proud of that. And a couple of players were interviewed after the game by the media, like, hey, why, you were consoling the players. Like, hey, why would you console the players? And it might've been Tim Weah, who's on the current team. He said, why? He goes, why would I not? These guys are my brothers. And it's like, oh, when you get to see sort of where
are the allergies tough in Louisville as well? The allergies are like kind of heavy over here. I'm like tearing up.
A lot of pollen. Yeah, a lot of pollen.
So there was an opportunity to really emotionally go one direction, and then
power of choice, though, right? And like you said, living your values,
living
who we want to be in the world,
living our values, and that was again, we talk about that was by design, not by accident. And again, it was nothing that we talked about, but when you create a culture and you surround everyone and everything with that right mindset and the right values and the right behaviors, and it's over and over and over again. And I could, just to share this as a quick example, which I think gets into just kind of like leadership, like Harry warned, hey, this is in all sports. Greg, as the leader of the team during that time, when you're together for these U.S. camps for weeks, if not a month at a time, the majority of your day as a coaching staff is you're on the field for a couple of hours, and then you're back in the hotel and you're in the coach's room for like 8 to 10 hours, right? And it's just like video and discussion and everything ad nauseum, over and over and over and over again. And I will say, and this was something that Greg never said to us, but he modeled it. And I've been around so many environments where I'm like, ooh, this is different in a bad way. Greg never talked negatively about our players. He never talked negatively. When I say negatively, I mean personally, right? He would talk about a player's strengths and their weaknesses. Well, I don't think, so-and-so, his strength is not this, or he's weak when it comes to this, but it was never personal. There was never trash talking a player in the coach's room behind their back. There was never even trash talking players on other teams from other countries behind their back. It was so respectful and considerate. And so when you left that room as coaches, you didn't do that inside conversations either. And so it was modeled. And so when I just look at that trickle down effect, right, we talk about, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And whether you're a parent or
what you're doing is so loud, I can't hear what you're saying.
That's exactly right. And we never had to say that to the players, but the players felt that. The players could feel that whether you agreed with decisions or not, there was so much respect and value into how everything that was done. that it just kind of permeated the entire environment. And so, and so to see that happen on the field after the match, that was nothing we ever talked about as a team, but it was just a natural result of the mindset and the behaviors that had been built.
Well, that's a hell of a story, and something, especially as somebody who, for me, and maybe there might be a bunch of listeners out there that aren't that in tune with the soccer landscape, whether it be locally here in the States or certainly globally, and don't even understand like the power of the World Cup, right?
It's literally ended civil wars.
Yeah, it's started wars and ended wars.
That's right. It's beyond sport. It really is.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned this word several times already, but this word pressure, right? And you talk about the privileges of pressure. We talk about pressures of privilege a lot.
Yeah.
And so, from your perspective, we've talked about the coach's POV, right? Point of view. From a player's perspective and the seat that you've had, what separates players who thrive under this World Cup pressure, whether it be like kind of societal pressure that exists, right? To the actual, wins and losses and what that means. Because like you said, Josh, I mean, it's like 4 years preparation. You could go, 0-3, you could 90 minutes and you're kind of done, or even your first game, if you lose that game, now the pressure rises even further, right? So like, what's the difference between those that handle this pressure and thrive under it versus those who crumble as a result of that pressure?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? And I think that probably the three of us have been around, this on an intimate level enough to realize that there's really not probably one answer, right, to any of that. How we as individuals and how athletes, even elite athletes, process the pressure of the situation, how they respond, right, is the most important thing. But how they process it, is going to be different. I remember sitting down with one of the players in the locker room, who's one of the better U.S. players on this new squad as well. And I said, hey, man, out of curiosity, right? Hey, tell me, when you're out there on the field or you're preparing for the game, like which side of the pendulum do you like to be on? Do you like to be a little mad, a little chip on your shoulder, or are you a joy guy, right? Are you out there? And he kind of looks at, because I could see both for this player, and he kind of looks at me and he goes, I don't really know. And I was like, oh, that's fair. And so, right. So much of it, we talk about, in our line of work with Limitless Minds, there's unconscious competence and conscious competence, right? So he's got a ton of unconscious competence. I was just trying to bring some conscious competence to it. But to that point, I do have conversations with players all the time, and the pressure, I think everyone feels the pressure. It's how they choose to channel it, and which helps them sort of deal with it, and so that they can. The goal is perform at the best of my ability, whether I'm feeling the pressure or not. And so I always love asking players about, how do you want to feel? What's the motivation you want to have out there? And so let's make sure then that we're sort of driving towards that direction as we prepare. But that whole idea, Harry, a pressure is a privilege. I think for each player, it's noticing the feeling and recognizing it. Are they feeling it as a positive or as a negative? And then what all three of us would do either way is bring them back to, and yet what are the behaviors I need to focus on today in order to go out there and play again? I guarantee, Lionel Messi, going into every game, you could say, hey, Lionel, like, what are the 2 or 3 things that you need to focus on most today if you're going to lead Argentina to a victory? And he's going to have them, boom, 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 boom. There's probably not a big difference from game in and game out. And so it's managing the emotion so that we can actually come back and refocus on the behaviors that help us consistently perform at that level. The favorite thing I love to whisper in the guys' ears during warm-ups, and it sounds seductive, doesn't it? Hey,
super creepy.
Hey,
I'm just saying, hey man, I'm just trying to stretch here, bro. Can you get out of my ear?
I usually came up with a cigarette. I was like, hey,
very French of you. Very French.
Yes. But it's like you're on the field, you're doing warm-ups, and they're going through the thing, they're getting into that state of mind. and you can just imagine they're at that point, right? It's like warm-ups. We haven't gone back to the locker room yet for pregame. They haven't come out. So like this is
what's the vibe in the stadium during the World Cup for warm-ups? Is it already packed, or people already going crazy singing songs?
Yeah, it's packed. It's loud. Yeah. It's almost like just a constant like it's like this constant. It almost becomes like a white noise, right? When you're trying to go to bed at night, if you took a World Cup stadium like oh hey, I'm gonna go to bed too. Hey, what's that white noise? Yeah, we call that pregame World Cup.
World Cup. Yeah.
And so you see like the guys like you see the guys like taking it in. Like I remember being on the field pregame for the first World Cup game against Wales. And even I like took a moment and I'm like, this is stupid. Like I'm standing on the field and I just like looked around at the entire thing. And I literally pinched myself. I'm like, Travis, like, holy cow, like appreciate this. This is amazing.
Gratitude, baby. Gratitude.
Appreciate this. But so what, so like, I'm just, I'm the vibes guy, right? Like I'm not out there like, like I'm out there. Pre-game is just the vibes guy, right? Everything, it's energy, it's clapping them up, it's knowing what the different guys, what their self-talk is and different things, and I'm just I'm reinforcing that. But then there would be these little moments where like, hey, they're stretching on their own or they've got a second, and I would just I would go up to a guy and I'd put my arm around him and I'd whisper in his ear, not seductively, but I'd whisper in his ear. I was like, hey, where else would you rather be right now?
Yeah.
Right. We talk about pressures of privilege. And I'd say, hey, where else would you rather be right now? And they would just like get this little smile and they would go right here. And then I would just say, be the guy you are. Right. You don't have to be or do anything else.
I'm ready to run through a brick wall.
Well, I mean, Josh,
I'm running through the wall.
Don't do it. We don't. You might already have CTE. We don't want to like worsen it.
Hey, we are working on that Kool-Aid endorsement.
There it is. Yeah,
you know what's interesting? Kool-Aid.
That's right.
What's interesting though, guys, is like, and you guys are the experts. You guys have been doing this work for so many years, and I've been the lucky observer and trying to utilize these in my daily work and stuff like that. But having been around this stuff too, if my 13-year-old daughter was, I could notice if she was feeling pressure, nervous. Like one of the things I tell her is like, listen, I want you to take a moment when you feel that. I don't care if it's, in the middle of the second half, like just feel the ground, and literally, I mean, like you can feel it with your feet, but like, even if you have to bend down and touch the turf or the grass or the pitch with your hand and just take a second to just be present. Yeah. We talk about presence a lot. And in some ways, I think people think that's cliche, staying present, but the reality is the ability to notice your breath, right? The ability to realize that, just kind of put yourself in a really myopic way in the moment that you're in, right? Use your senses. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you hear? All that stuff, and just try to be as present as possible. Because I think most of us, when we think about pressure, usually we're living in this: what if this happens?
Yeah.
What if we're
living in a future tense?
Yeah. Like, what if the result doesn't go my way? What if we lose? What if this gets hard? What if, like, what am I going to say on the presser if, right? All these different things. And none of that really matters, but we can't predict the future. And the future is, whether it be 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, 90 minutes from now, we don't know what's going to happen. We have to be as present and it's not, listen, if this was like easy work, we'd all be elite performers, right?
Totally.
It's not easy work, right? And that's one that I think I struggle with as an athlete, was probably one of these areas. And that's why I play pickleball and at my local, club here rather than, playing professional or something like that. Right. I mean,
we got to do that. We got to do the LM pickleball tournament.
Yes, we do.
I'm going to win it. So
that's all I'm training for. That's all I'm training for.
Exactly.
I'm doing steroids for it. Just so you guys know.
Do it. The enhanced games.
The enhanced pickleball games.
Pickleball.
The enhanced pickleball games.
170 miles.
That's what I take as like a regular guy, Josh and Travis. Like as a regular guy, that's what I can to. It's like in a pressure moment is just trying to stay as present as possible.
Yeah, be present, not perfect. We used to say that in Chicago all the time. Be present, not perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's funny, and I wish I'm watching the HBO documentary right now. Is doing
I gotta watch that.
The lead up. It's really good. 3 episodes, 3 episodes of 5, I think. Right. So it's the lead up to the World Cup. So if you don't blink, you might see me in episode 1. a few times, but don't blink too much. Don't
Are you
blink.
holding
like-
one
I'm just
today?
like-
No, you're not. Dang it.
I am having an intimate moment next to Tyler Adams in one of our family meetings, but
another
think-
ear whisper.
I think they were focusing on Tyler, not me, but I'm not sure. Anyway,
We don't know.
Hey, listen, everybody makes mistakes.
hey, so presence, right? Harry's talking about like being mindful, being in the present moment. This is one of my favorite things from the last group. He's not on the current World Cup team, but DeAndre Yedlin, right? DeAndre Yedlin made the last World Cup team, and he was kind of seen as kind of one of the older wise veterans on the team, right? And everyone loved DeAndre. The vibes that he brings, and he's just authentically him, and is a deeply like thoughtful spiritual guy. And so it's very funny. So we get to Qatar, we start training, right? We're a week or so out from our first game, and we trained in the same training facility every day. And so at the end of training, DeAndre would take off his cleats, take off his socks, right? He'd be barefoot, and he would just walk laps around the pitch. And like a couple other guys would be like, "Hey man, DeAndre, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm grounding myself." They're like, "What?" He's like, "Grounding. I'm grounding myself with nature." Right. And so all of a sudden, like two other guys take their boots off and their socks off, and they're walking around. And so what are they doing as they're literally like grounding themselves in nature and connecting to nature and being present? What are they doing? Now they're slow walk around the pitch, right? And now they're talking to each other and they're having deeper conversations, right? The next day, what happens? You got one or two more guys. The next day, what happens? What do you got? Two more. And I loved it. We finished training, and you look out in the distance, there's 12 guys barefoot walking as a pack, laughing, connecting. And when we think about so there's a deeply, like physiological, emotional, spiritual thing to what they're doing, this grounding thing. And it's no different, Harry, than having your daughter reach down and feel the grass, right? To feel her, to feel yourself in this moment, to slow down, to be present. And then that turned into a group of guys leading yoga on our hotel patio. And they're doing it with each other. They didn't need one of our trainers to do it. And so just all those little ways that we exercise, right? What is right when we perform at the highest level, we're performing at the highest, we're performing at a high level because we're present in that moment. Well, then we need to develop that muscle of being present in the moment by doing things consistently that help us be present in the moment, i.e. meditation, i.e. grounding, i.e. improvisation, i.e. anything that like helps you exercise that muscle. So when the emotions are high and the pressure is high, you have this wealth of experience and knowing how to get present that you can fall back on.
Love that. Yeah, you got to train it, right? Like, hey, resiliency, adversity tolerance, being focused. You can train this stuff, and that's what the best of the best do. They take the moments and they do train it. Speaking of the best, this is what we're going to be able to watch this summer throughout the 3 to 6 weeks of the World Cup. What would you want like youth players in any sport? What would you want them to look for and kind of take out of seeing this unbelievable event that we're about to witness in our country? That ends part 1 of the podcast. Tune in next week and you'll hear the rest of our fabulous conversations surrounding the World Cup and what it can mean to your youth athlete. We look forward to seeing you. Remember, you don't have to be sick to get better.